Are you ready?
Good news, everyone!
I'm the surprise in your cereal box. I'm
great! Everybody else sucks!
I said, are you ready?
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's Ciely.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
That's right! You're always blaming me. So, my reputation exceeds me.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you docs? It is week 7 rankings to talk about fantasy football and FTN Fantasy, all in football. Chris Meaney live with a Dallas Mavericks shirt on. What the hell's going on with that?
Yeah, Mavs. They're starting the season tonight. Might as well rock it.
Oh, are you even a Mavs fan? Like this?
Oh yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah, no, diehard. I've been a Mavs fan for as long as I can remember. The year that they drafted Dirk. In my early days in Canada. Well, see, I like when I was a kid, I was Raptors. There was lots of Raptor gear all the time. I think I even had my parents bought me like a Raptors hoodie one time. But Steve Nash, Canadian. The Mavs signed Nash. Okay. They drafted Dirk the same year. And I was like, I really like this Dirk guy. He's like tall, lanky, white boy, and looks like he can shoot. And he's the best of all time.
No. He's the best worst of all time. I think I've told you that before. He's the best worst player in NBA history. You look at him, you watch him. He should not be good. He is lanky and goofy, and he's he's the worst. Like as a NBA specimen, he's one of the worst people of all time. But he's the best. He's the best worst of all time.
I could see that. Yeah. He's very awkward sometimes watching him. You're like, wow, how did he just get to the rim? Did he just dunk? It was like the first time he ever dunked. No, he's just such a great shooter, too. Like, unbelievable shooter. Yeah, go Mavs.
Go Mavs. Go, hopefully.
Now it's Luka season. Let's go.
Let's hopefully go your winning teams. Hopefully they're doing a little bit better than my home league has been scratching and clawing. Like, it's every week something goes wrong in my team. So I know how you guys feel out there. And we got a lot to talk about here. Make sure you're capitalizing on the trades and stuff like that. Alex just updated his trade chart over at The Athletic. So if you want to check out that, I put the links in the top of the comments of the waivers and the rankings. So very simple. Why I skip past a lot of trade questions? Because there's so much context. There's so much involved. But the chart gives you if you have the value, if the value is pretty even, that's what you're looking for. I got one yesterday. I love this, Chris, and then we're going to move on because nobody cares about mine. So I'm doing a dynasty trade, which there's like 2 sites out there that you can use for dynasty trade calculators because that's a tough one because there's so many moving parts.
Variables. Yeah.
And somebody was trying to trade in the super flex. And so I was like, look, what you're trying to come with isn't even close for Kyler Murray by his own. So I was like, I would need something more like this, including a first or whatever. And that still favors me. And then he says, what about this? And it came back further to him. Like what? Like, did you not just first of all, what I just sent you wasn't even close to my side, and now you made it worse. And how is that better than what anyway? So be a good fantasy manager. Like, don't try to offend the other team because that's how you get immediately written off of ever making a trade ever again. What I want to try to buy low for right now before he plays this week, Chris, but also get your opinion overall. Jonathan Taylor. I think people have forgotten week 1 so quickly. Week 1 was, oh my God, Jonathan Taylor. This is why we drafted him 101. And it has been disappointing because Matt Ryan's been destroying this offense half the games. Matt Ryan's either great or terrible. And the terrible games have been killing Jonathan Taylor. Also, the injury on top of it. But if he's back there no matter what in your lineup, right? And then question two is, would you try to buy low on Jonathan Taylor right now? Because people are annoyed. People are pissed.
Yeah, I would. I write an article every week too, trade article, just trade targets. And I always talk about players that are on bye or players that are hurt. And looking at, I told everyone, you got to look at Jonathan Taylor owners in every one of your leagues. If you don't have them, just to see what their record is. They're probably fed up, to your point, but they need healthy bodies right now. So the past couple of weeks have been the opportunity to get him. I still would. Absolutely. There's no question. We know that at least when he's healthy and he's on the field, he hasn't been super efficient to start the season, but when he's on the field, Jake, that he's touching the ball 20 plus times. And there's only a handful of backs that you can count on 20 plus touches. So yeah, I would definitely 100% Could you trade Etienne, who's buzzy and trending up? Would you trade?
I would do that.
Would you trade a Breece Hall straight up for Jonathan Taylor? That's something I think you could do.
I think you could even get a little more back at this point. When you said bodies, you just made me think of Drowning Pool.
Let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor.
That's a nice pump me up song. Yeah. That one's cranked on the way to hockey. That one gets.
Is it? Phil Mike with the Bibby Rap. Dude, Bibby's Raptor jerseys is terrific. Here's the weirdest thing. When I went to AEW in Baltimore, UMBC, with Nicole earlier this year, I saw 2 Mike Bibby jerseys from the Raptor. Like, first of all, what's the odds of running into one, let alone 2, in the same place in Baltimore?
Yeah, that's pretty random. I got a Bibby old school Grizzlies jersey. I don't remember the Raptors, but
that's what I was thinking of. There's the Grizzlies. I think that's probably
Vancouver.
What he meant.
Yeah. So Vancouver, then went to Memphis, but yeah, that's an old school. And that's totally random to find a jersey like that. I mean, that is straight up vintage.
And 2 of them,
you run
two
into
in the
one
same
of those
place.
Not one, but 2.
The matrix was broken. The simulation failed right there. Like it's like maybe like looking for Neo over here. All right, so Aaron Jones. I talked about him yesterday with Lauren because the Worry Report, and I said, this is Aaron Jones. This is what you bought. This is Aaron Jones. 100% Aaron Jones. A 30-point game, touchdown reliant. The difference from last year to this year is just the touchdowns, Chris. He's actually averaging much more in a yards per carry basis here. Do you still just plug him in and start him every single week? It's kind of hard. We're on buys, so I know it's going to be like, who are you really benching at this point? But I guess, are you a little bit worried? There's another one. Are you trying to buy low? Aaron Jones, should it be a top 20 running back? Where do you stand?
Yeah, this is a great question and a good guy to talk about. I think you just plug him in, knowing his upside and what he can do. But it is frustrating the way he's been used. I feel like I just expected more catches from him, like more catches, more receiving yards. Like he's averaging 20.5 receiving yards. That's the lowest he had since 2018. He's got 23 targets and 17 grabs. The guy's had 47 plus catches, in each of his last 3 years. I mean, quick math, 17 catches through 6. I don't know. He's probably not on pace to hit that 50. I guess I can't do quick math, that 50 catch mark. Like I expect a little bit more. There's no Adams. We had a couple games of sample size over the past couple of years when there's no Adams. Catches and
people
targets.
Expected Aaron Jones to jump up in receptions, and he's just Aaron Jones again. Yeah. That's what it is. I think the expectation was
he's
high.
Fine. I don't know. I think the bigger question is, do you roll out A.J. Dillon? Like, what do you do with that guy? He just sits on your bench.
And he sits on your bench.
They need to start running the football.
I'd be trying to buy low on A.J. Dillon merely because of this, because you're not starting him. And people might be ready to just be like, hey, give me a piece I can start. And then if Aaron Jones were to ever get hurt, of course, maybe Aaron Jones stays healthy all year. But if you ever did get hurt, A.J. Dillon would be a top 10 running back. Not even a question about it.
Yeah, I know.
I've already seen him there.
Yeah, I view him as a buy low too. Both guys. I mean, Aaron Jones obviously has a higher ceiling, and I just did the math. I mean, he is actually on pace for about 47 catches. It doesn't seem like it. I expect to get a little bit
Aaron
more.
Jones.
It's just, I guess the receiving yards are down just a touch, but yeah, I mean, that could change. Green Bay's really going through something. I think they need to look at themselves in the mirror and try to find what the identity is with this team.
They're going through a breakup. They're going through something.
They really are, though. Are you watching? It's crazy to watch this team over the past couple of weeks. The New England, they escaped New England. They lost to your Giants.
That's because the true MVP, Devontae Adams, is gone. That's what it is.
I think that's part of it. And, I saw LaFleur on the sidelines rallying the boys when they were down like 2 scores to the Jets. Like, we got this, let's get back to what we do really well. And I think what they do really well is run the football with those 2 guys. So I don't know if we get into November at Lambeau in the cold, and then we start seeing 40 plus runs, 35 plus runs combined from these 2 running backs. I would buy Jones. I'd buy Dillon too, but I'm only buying him to be my flex running back. I don't want him to be like my RB2.
Well, if I'm buying Dillon, hopefully he's just on my bench. You brought up Etienne. So the miss a little bit on my side of James Robinson play last week was like, hey, keep him out there because he's getting goal line opportunities. And he still was. He was still out there. And then freaking Trevor Lawrence took 2 touchdowns away. At least one. Here's the good thing. They get the Giants this week. They get the Giants, who just let Kenyon Drake go berserk on 10 carries because they're very vulnerable to the run, especially just like getting up through that crease. And if you get through that first level, see ya, as we've seen. Yeah. So Etienne can do the same thing. Etienne's very explosive in the passing game. Can you start both of them this week? Obviously, if you have them on the same team, you'd like to avoid it. But I'm not even talking about specifically for basically, are you starting James Robinson? Because you are starting Etienne, right?
Yes.
There's no world where you're not.
No, I don't think so. What I've seen from the past couple of weeks has been real nice. Like usage uptick, starting games, getting some first and second down runs. Obviously, very explosive to your point. You just said that. He really does look good. But I would start James Robinson. I'm in a spot where it's funny that we're leading this way. In one of my home leagues, Robinson and AJ Dillon. And I was back and forth this morning on what I would do. I think I have Robinson 2 spots ahead of AJ. I'll roll out AJ because it's your Giants as in my flex, but I do believe it's Etienne's kind of making it at least 60-40.
Here we go. I saved these 2 running backs to ask you a question of comparison wise. Okay. So Etienne and Robinson. This is weird. This is a check the link duo, maybe, or make a list duo. Let's check that. I messed up my own thing here. So Etienne and Robinson, would you start both? Would you start Etienne and Robinson over Jeff Wilson?
Yeah, I think I would. I would. Both of them. It's a little bit close. I definitely would do Etienne over Wilson. And I think it's a little closer between Robinson and Jeff Wilson. I mean, this is 2 straight weeks now? 2 weeks ago it was Tevin Coleman getting in the way, and then last week he hardly touched the ball. What was that about? They're down in the game?
They're down 14-0. Well, and I think that's the biggest concern. So Jeff Wilson's snap count is going down for 4 straight games. Not crazy. He's still the lead. Terry and David Price have 1 snap, so not worried about him. But as you mentioned, my bigger concern is what you just said, is Kansas City. And if you get down, and you get down early, like more Tevin Coleman, more passes in general. Like everybody loves some Jimmy Garoppolo this week, and that means very little Jeff Wilson, who doesn't get a ton of passing game work. All right, so then how about this one? Both of them, Etienne, James Robinson, versus Raheem Mostert against the Steelers.
I like the usage.
49er.
I like the usage that Mostert's getting. I mean, he was not that efficient last week with it, but he's getting carries. I know, from a betting standpoint, books are hanging at 14.5 plus money on him, and I think it'd be another week where he
14.5 carries or 14.5 carries,
14.5 carries, yeah, 14.5.
I was just gonna say, that can't be.
I'd hammer the 14 rushing yards as well, but I think I probably go with Wilson, but it's pretty close. I definitely go with both Jags backs over Mostert, but I think I would go with Jeff Wilson, just maybe splitting hairs here in a high scoring game. But at the same time, Miami's playing Pittsburgh. Do we know who the quarterback is? Is it Trubisky? They're 7-point favorites. You figure that if they do get up in this game, they kind of lean on Mostert a little bit. He doesn't look that fantastic, even though he's getting touches.
That's true. I don't know that Kenny Pickett is that big of an upgrade as we've seen. I mean, it definitely is, but you don't know for sure.
Touch.
So how about Etienne and James Robinson versus Clyde Edwards-Helaire?
I'd go with the Jags backs. Man, it's just a mess in KC. It really is. You think McKinnon, maybe Pacheco, and then CEH, and I don't know.
All right, one more for you then.
Yeah, I like the upside.
And they're facing the 49ers.
Yeah.
Okay. Without a touchdown, CEH is kind of doo-doo.
Yeah. He had a game with 0 rushing yards this year. 0.
But he scored a touchdown.
But he did. He scored a touchdown.
Yeah, that's some passing game work. All right, so last one. How about both of the Jags versus the new lead for the Commanders and Brian Robinson?
I'll play Robinson over Robinson.
James. Robinson over Robinson?
Well done. I play Brian over James.
Would you play both Jags over which Cowboy? Both Cowboys? One Cowboy? Ooh. No Cowboys?
I don't mind the spot for the boys, the Cowboys this week. I feel like
they get the
be
Lions.
Able to run. Yeah, I think I'm like Zeke this week. I think I would go Zeke over James, but I probably roll
not over
Brian.
Etienne.
No, not over Etienne. It's close though.
Okay,
really close. I think this could be a big Zeke week.
A big Zeke week.
Yeah, like
we just had a big Zeke week against your guys. Who's like, you screwed my under.
Thanks for that. They were running the ball pretty well in that in the third quarter there. I feel like that should be their identity too. if there's no Dak, I mean, they should be able to. They'll just run the ball, I think, with both those guys. Yeah, and that'll be better, I think, for efficiency. Maybe we don't get 20 carries from Zeke, but maybe we get 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown, 80 yards on like 16 carries. Like that would be pretty efficient. It'd be a good day.
All right. Before we move on from running back, so let's take this from the perspective of twofold. J.K. Dobbins is back and fine. Well, question mark, fine. Aggravated the knee. The knee's kind of bothering him. So J.K. Dobbins, is he in front of Drake? And do you start J.K. Dobbins over either of the Jags? Both the Jags? One of the Jags? Tony Pollard? I know my answer. I'll give you my answer. Go ahead.
I don't think I'm starting J.K. Dobbins. I don't know if I'd start him. Okay. I don't know if I'd feel great about starting Kenyon over him either.
So J.K. Dobbins would be behind this entire conversation of players we're having.
Absolutely.
CEH, James Robinson, even in the second half.
Yes.
I think I'd probably find the push around A.J. Dillon. For that second half, I'd probably just lean Dobbins. But, I mean, it's a great matchup. Cleveland Browns are as bad as the Giants against the run. Yeah, and that's the appealing part here is the one big run. Although, does J.K. Dobbins get the big run? That's the kind of the question is like, does he even have that to get the big run? But he could get the touchdown, screw everything up, and hey, amazing day. So here's the question now. If there is no J.K. Dobbins, do we love the Drake? Does the Drake get inside the top 20?
We love the Drake until we see Mike Davis or Lamar just run all day. But yeah, I think so. If there's no JK, he's a low end RB2. He's a flex guy. Let's see.
No. Here's how I'll tell you. So Kenyon Drake is Jared Cook. So when you want him to be good, and we're counting on him to be good, he's gonna give you the middle finger and walk the other way, get you 30 yards. When he's on benches and waivers like last week and nobody gives a damn about Kenyon Drake, that's when he goes off. So you know what I say? Absolutely. Screw the Drake. I don't even hate the Drake. Screw the Drake. I'm done with the Drake. You can start him.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, I got him this morning in a couple spots, and I didn't even feel good about it. Like, I'm not even starting him this week. It's just like a running back on my bench.
No J.K. Dobbins. So Kenyon Drake versus Eno Benjamin.
Oh yeah, wow. Against the Saints, I probably just play.
Their defense stinks this year. All of a sudden,
yeah, but their run D is still like decent. I think.
Nah, it's middle of the road. It's not fierce.
Yeah, well, it's not as elite as it has been in like the past few years. But it's Eno had a good spot last week, and he didn't look that good at all, man. He touched the ball.
The volume.
He had 15 carries, 3 catches. He had 18 touches, which something we said on the show. He'll flirt with 20 touches, but how efficient will this guy be? And he wasn't very at all. And Kyler ran like the old Kyler in that game. I think he had like 80 or 90 rushing yards.
Gets back DeAndre Hopkins. When I mentioned this in the offseason, Chris, all of Kyler Murray's rushing touchdowns last year came in DeAndre Hopkins games.
Yeah.
Not saying that's just like, but...
Got to think the offense will be much better with Hopkins, even if he doesn't offer a whole lot. It's like Kyler is 3-8 without him. Like, this is a team that looks pathetic in the first half. I would go with Kenyon Drake over, if there's no chicken.
So I was going to use a different team to transition to wide receiver, so we'll come back to Hopkins in a second. I was going to use this team because let's talk about this entire mess in Denver. Good God. Does Nathaniel Hackett make it to the end of the year?
Probably, but if this is a 5-win team and they're dead last in points, which they are right now, they're dead last in the NFL in points per game, 15.2, dead last. If they're a 6-win team, he's got to be fired. He's got to be, because you're not getting rid of Russell. You just gave him $240 million for the next 8 years, so you're kind of stuck with him.
Hey, at least their corners are good? Question mark.
Their defense is actually fantastic.
All right. That's what I'm saying. So here's the problem, though. The offense is not any good. The running backs, Melvin Gordon, we talked about this yesterday, sad face in the second half of and liking tweets, not only from fans, former players asking. Here's one thing. It's one thing for fans and for players to like fans saying, like, what's going on with Melvin Gordon? Why isn't he getting any run? Blah, 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 blah. When former players are questioning Nathaniel Hackett and what the hell is going on with Melvin Gordon, there's a problem. And that's why I think the Nathaniel Hackett thing is bigger than, again, it might not happen now, but I don't know if he makes the, because you can't sit here and have former players sit. And it wasn't just like former Broncos players. It's just former players sitting there going, what the is going on?
Yeah, former players that are in the media, former players that are part of the broadcast watching the game.
Yes.
Talking about it, not understanding what the heck was going on in that game.
And it's not like Melvin Gordon fumbled twice or anything like that. And then Nathaniel Hackett's excuse, we didn't have enough plays. What? Oh, maybe try having an offense that actually does something on the field, and maybe you'll have more plays. But it was a non-answer. This is what we need to do, though, Chris. We need to figure this out. Latavius Murray, is he the lead right now for Denver? Like, do we roll him out there as an RB2, or is what my answer is, stay the living... Don't go chasing Broncos running backs. This is the new one. This is all the different ones. Don't go chasing running backs. Sure, I'm going to rank Latavius Murray first and Melvin Gordon second and Mike Boone way down the list, who was out there in a ton of passing downs but didn't get a lot of touches, 4 or 5 targets and 1 reception. But I am staying the living hell away. If I have to start one, it would be Latavius Murray.
Yeah, same. Latavius is a guy, when that signing happened, talked about picking him up, but I didn't think he'd overtake him this quickly. I know that Melvin Gordon had some issues fumbling the ball, but he was good enough to steal touches from Javonte Williams. The heck, like, he's not going to get any touches against his former team and a defense that had given up 5.8 yards per carry.
Time out. Not to cut you off. Hold on.
In the last 2 years.
Okay, go ahead. Time out on this because but I want to. You just said something that Lauren said something. And people on Twitter said something, facing his former team. He already faced his former team multiple times. Why is everybody talking about this? You're not the only one. I just don't get it's not the first year. Like, he didn't just sign from the Chargers. Like, why is everybody like facing former team? He faced the former team 20 times already.
And he did good against his former squad. I don't know. I think I just touched that. I toss it out there because it's like fun. It's not so much narrative.
Revenge game for the next 73 years until he dies.
It all ties in. It feels like, because the matchup, former team, yada yada, but the matchup was fantastic. You're seeing this guy basically in tears on the sidelines, and after the game, he was talking about it to the reporter.
Could you imagine
if his comments after the game?
Oh yeah. Could you imagine if the Michael Jordan crying face thing was still going? Yeah, oh my God, Melvin Gordon all day long with that.
So I didn't think it would ever go away. But yeah, I haven't thought about that in forever. He's so upset. Like, I don't know why I didn't get any touches. Like, I don't know. I wanted to play so bad. I'm watching my team in overtime. And Nathaniel Hackett, to say he had no plays, it's like, he had no plays because they couldn't move the ball. But their offense was so predictable. In the fourth quarter and in overtime, they ran the ball on first and second down every time. They're the most penalized team on offense in the entire league. The offensive line is in shambles. Like, Nathaniel Hackett he's not fooling anybody.
Did you see when I tweeted that after the game, at the end of the game? So the total yards for that game, number one was punts. Number one was punts. Then it was Herbert Wilson. Number 3 was Broncos penalty yards. Or number 4, if I could do math. You broke me on math today, apparently.
And Troy, and Troy Aikman's on the broadcast too. I like how blunt he is. I mean, he says some things that are definitely ludicrous.
He sounded annoyed during that game.
I mean, can you blame him? He's a former quarterback in the league, and he's watching guys get paid handsomely. He's seeing bogus, like, roughing the passer penalties week in and week out. And then they had 11 days to prepare for this game. 11 days, because they had the Thursday Night Football game. The first play of the game is an offensive hold. The second play of the game, I think, was another penalty. They start like 2-28 or something silly. It's just like, Troy, so what is going on here with this?
You're telling me smash Denver for the win against the Jets? So like they're just going to come in 35-10, going to just dominate.
I play the
all
Jets
of a sudden
defense with confidence.
Which, by the way, pay attention. Like, there's all of a sudden this Russell Wilson injury talk going out there. So
hamstring,
wide receivers. This is the interesting one. So do you know what their leading receiver, I was going to say receiving yards, but like that's why I just tongue-tied myself. Do you know who the leading receiver was and what the leading receiving yards were for the Broncos on Monday night?
Oh yeah, it was the tight end Dulcich. I think he was tied. No,
44. Dulcich. By the way, we found 6. Dulcich. 6. Yeah, I thought it was like Doncic too. It's Dulcich. Sick.
Okay, so they were pronouncing it wrong on the broadcast then.
No, they did. Somebody was saying it right. One of them, two of them was saying it right. Anyway, he was 2 for 44. He was second. He was second. Number one.
Somebody had 2 more yards, 46.
No, 10 more. 3 for 54 was Jerry Jeudy. So this is what I'm asking you. Is they're facing Sauce Gardner, who's immediately become a shutdown corner that people expected when they drafted. And this is why he was drafted where he was drafted. Yeah, I assume it's mostly Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
Jerry Jeudy was the leading receiver with 54 yards. How is anybody ranking Courtland Sutton inside the top 20 and Jerry Jeudy inside the top 30? Am I crazy? Or
No,
should
you're not.
Sutton be a wide receiver 3 and Jeudy not even potentially startable?
Yeah, I have a hard time playing either of these guys this week. I not top 20 for me. There's no chance.
Okay.
I have Courtland Sutton. He's like I don't even want to play him.
I have
Don't even
Courtland
want to play
Sutton
this
behind Brandon Ayuk. I have Courtland Sutton.
Yeah.
This is the names I have Courtland Sutton with: Jacoby, Samuel, Cooks, London. That's where Sutton deserves to be. Jeudy,
Yeah.
he's down there with Rondell Moore and Michael Gallup.
Yeah, I mean,
Sound
it's
about
tough
right?
with the offense. Absolutely sounds about right. Dead last in the league in passing yards or in points. And now Russ is dealing hamstring popped up, but he's also dealing with this shoulder thing. So I would buy low on Courtland. I think he could do it after this week. I think after this week, if he has another dead game, people will be upset with him. He had 2 targets in that game last week, and J.C. Jackson was on him, and the 2 targets came in the first couple possessions.
what do you think's
and he
gonna
didn't
happen
even
with
bother
Sauce
looking
Gardner?
his way. Exactly.
So,
he didn't even
but-
bother looking his way the rest of the way.
To your point about Courtland Sutton, here's why it's a good buy low on top of it. And maybe even next week, too. Has a shutdown game. Jacksonville, their defense was pretty good until last week. Don't ask me what the hell happened last week. Bye. And then Tennessee, worse so far against wide receivers. Raiders, Carolina, Baltimore's pass defense, Kansas City, Arizona's pass defense, the Rams, which is just Jalen Ramsey and nobody else at this point for some reason.
Right.
I don't know what the hell happened to the rest of theirs. And then the Chiefs to finish things off. There is not, as of today, a better rest of the season passing game schedule than the Broncos.
I agree. And that's what I said yesterday, that it could potentially turn up for Russ, but he's only had 1 ceiling game, right? But that's why the only guy in this offense that I really care about is Courtland Sutton.
Turn up for us.
It is. It's one of the
I
most.
like turn up for Russ. They should play turn up for what? Turn up for Russ.
They should. Yeah, that's not bad. It's one of the most surprising things, though, Jake. There's been a lot, right? A lot of surprising things. The Packers look awful. We just saw the Bucs lose to the Steelers. The Rams Super Bowl hangover, whatever. Bills are great. We know that. NFC East is surprising, but it's got to be one of the most surprising things. Like, Seattle has a top 5 pick right now because of that trade. Then they got all these picks. They spent all that capital to get Russ. They signed him to an extension. They moved to 15-1 to win the Super Bowl. They're now currently 90-1. They look awful. I can't wrap my head around how bad they've looked through the first few games of the season. I would never have thought they would look this bad. Never.
I don't think anybody
Russ looks
did.
very
I don't think
below
anybody expected the Seahawks to look this good. I talked about it with Pat Mayo. I have 2 really great over-unders. They're smashing right now. The Carolina under is one of them. And then 2 really bad ones. And one of them, it's actually, I didn't bet Denver, but I bet the under at Seattle. Seattle and Carolina took the under. Great on one, terrible on the other. I also took the Lions over, which is looking shaky. It's definitely I was expecting at least a few more wins. The offense is amazing. I was like, this is exactly why I bet the over. And then the over on the Bills. I'm gonna back into that one unless Josh Allen falls apart.
Their schedule is so great.
I looked at that. I told Pat that. I looked at that when I was like, wait. So you're giving me an over under that the Bills eclipsed last year already. And then this team is supposed to be better and even more complete in their Super Bowl. And they have an extra game. I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Am I drunk? Am I missing something?" I generally don't like to hit too many overs because so many things can easily go wrong. Yeah. But yeah, all right. So let's talk about Chargers since we're touching on them. Keenan Allen is back. First question is, do we just throw him back into our lineups?
Yeah, I think so. Bye week. A
how
lot of
far-
stud wide receivers hurt. I'd say wide receiver 3 this week. I'm not ranking him like a top 10, 15.
Not 20.
Around 20.
Christian Kirk, who saved his day with a touchdown, or Keenan Allen?
I'd probably go Kirk there, but it's pretty close. I still believe in Kirk, or I'd probably go Keenan there. Sorry, I still believe in Kirk. I also think he's a good
Kirk
buy low.
is?
Past couple weeks have been pretty
Kirk is 2021 Mike Williams. Remember that? Remember,
yeah,
top 10. No, it's one of the best in the league. And then,
boomer bust. Yeah, great. Yeah, like Mike Williams last week. But again, Surtain. But yeah, that's a good comparison.
Of course.
Highs and lows.
No, I meant just from last year, where it's like people were asking for the moon for Mike Williams. This is why we always talk about buys and sells, because people were going bananas for Mike Williams last year. Those first. Wait, who else was this? Mike Williams and somebody else. Somebody else who didn't finish up there that wasn't deserving to be up there those first 4 or 5 weeks. If anybody in the chat thinks about it. By the way, I'll answer some chat questions, but I can't read a novel. Like I'm trying to keep this I can't sit here read 80 lines. That's what the rankings column is for. You can drop those in the comments, and then I can parse through it a little bit more. But all right, so how about this one? Keenan Allen or Deontay Johnson?
I would go Keenan Allen there. It's been a nice couple games from Deontay.
Sounded like a sigh. This is a very big sigh, though.
It's a tough call. It's a tough call. That's it. I'm not a huge
Allen
Deontay guy.
Or Amari Cooper against the Ravens.
I would go with Amari Cooper there. Ravens starting to get a little bit healthier, but they've given up some big time passing plays this year.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to let's get to it. The Cardinals. DeAndre Hopkins is back. Hopkins is back. Marquise Brown done until. By the way, if you don't have IR spots, I said this yesterday. One, what the hell are you doing? Stop not playing. Just play with IR spots, please. Multiple. There's no reason to double ding yourself just because of bad luck, which happens every single year. Marquise Brown was not an injury risk, and then boom, done. That's what I'm saying. There's no I drafted Saquon Barkley. You saw it coming. No, he's not even hurt right now. Oh, his shoulder's a little messed up, but you get my point. So if you don't have an IR spot, go ahead and drop Marquise Brown. Week 13 is the earliest. Week 13 is their bye, so week 14 is the earliest, which is the fantasy playoffs are right there, so you're just hoping to make the fantasy playoffs.
Yeah,
point here, DeAndre Hopkins is back. Too. Yeah, Rondell Moore, and then they traded for Robbie Anderson. The first question is similar to Keenan Allen. DeAndre Hopkins right back into your lineup, top 20 wide receiver, or are you a little bit more hesitant?
No, I think I got him at 20, 19 or 20. Okay. I would play him, especially, with Robbie on the short week. He's not, I don't know if he's going to be a guy that plays, 80% of the snaps. It may just be here and there. So I would definitely play Hopkins. And he's been, I don't know. I'm assuming he's healthy and he's ready to go.
Hopkins or Keenan Allen?
I would go with Hopkins there just because if Hollywood was on the squad, I'd be thinking that, it wouldn't be fully Hopkins. But there's still other moving pieces on that Chargers team.
Hopkins or Allen Lazard?
Ooh, good one. I would go Hopkins, but that's really close to me. Lazard against Washington, it's really close.
I told Pat yesterday, I was like, Hopkins looks in great shape, and he's like, of course he does. He was on effing PEDs.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, hey, sometimes I don't know. Alshon Jeffrey did it once, and there's rumors and reports, and I'm not saying that any of it was true. But this is a guy who had issues staying on the field, soft tissue issues, took the 4-game ban, got himself paid, had a full season with the Eagles, then completely fell off. But he did get himself paid and was able to stay healthy for a year. So, yeah, I don't know. There might be something to it.
There might be something to it. All right, so let's talk about somebody else on the flip side. Oh, real quick. Rondell Moore. Are you going Hopkins, Moore, Robbie?
Yeah.
More startable Robbie if you're desperate, though?
Maybe
desperate,
not. Super desperate.
3 for 80.
Yeah, but I think he's a good pickup, and I wouldn't be shocked if this is a much better situation. Let's be honest, in Arizona.
And there's no Marshawn Lattimore on top of it,
right?
And that pass defense been miserable. It's not even been that great with him.
Yeah.
All right, so Brandin Cooks, I broke him down in the worry, Chris, and I said the biggest thing here is Davis Mills, big step back, completion percentage way down, off target percentage way up. He's not throwing 20-plus yards downfield. The touchdown rate is down. Basically, everything's been crap compared to last year. It's still okay, but the also bigger part about it is the target percentage, the team target percentage, where he was 25, 30%, 25, 30, just in that 25 to 30% range. The last 2 games before their bye, it was under 20%. Do you think he gets right, or do we have legitimate long-term season concerns for Brandin Cooks and he's a wide receiver 3 this year?
I think he's a wide receiver 3, yeah. Nico's got more yards than him, but he doesn't have the targets and he doesn't have the catches.
Last 2 games.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Nico. I think he definitely should be rostered. His ownership, I'm just seeing. I mean, he was them buy, so everyone dropped him. He's sitting at 20% in Yahoo leagues. He's interesting to me, but I think Cooks is still the guy. He's still the guy with the upside. I do have some concerns because you're right. Davis Mills doesn't look good. How many passing touchdowns has this guy thrown this year? I think his wide receivers have one touchdown. And OJ Howard had a couple touchdowns in week 1, so he's got 5 touchdowns and 4 picks.
No,
so.
I was going to say it to the wide receivers. It's just
to the wide receivers, just the one.
Okay,
for Cooks.
Okay.
So that's a concern, right? Obviously, but last year he just had a ton of air yards and he had a ton of targets, and the volume was there. And even though he wasn't scoring touchdowns, he was getting yards and it was fine. But yeah, I think a wide receiver 3. I still think there's upside. I get a lot of questions about Cooks. I'm sure you do as well. I'd say he could be had if you wanted to buy him. You can pick up Collins if you want. You can. Oh, this might be an interesting week though. This could be a breakout week.
I'm gonna bring 2 names into this real quick. Mr. Nice Guy, the Jags wide receivers. The only one I would be starting right now is Christian Kirk, and I feel great about him. On my bench, Darrell Henderson or Khalil Herbert. Darrell Henderson. I don't understand. Am I missing something, Chris? Like everybody, I forget what the other player was. It was like, oh my gosh, want it to happen. Then it finally happened for whatever the player was. And I even said this on the show, and I was like, you guys wanted it forever. It happened, and then you didn't trust him. And I don't remember who it was. I think it was a wide receiver. But this feels like the same thing for Darrell Henderson. Like, oh, he should be in the league. Cam Akers looks broken and done and blah, blah. And then they get rid of Cam Akers, essentially. And all of a sudden people are like, should I hold on to Darrell Henderson? What? This is what you've been asking for. Like, why all of a sudden, like, he has the opportunity? And it's like, oh, I don't know.
That is funny. There's a lot of there's a lot of Darrell Henderson truthers out there, and now all of a sudden, they're like, wait, what? I mean, he just had 12 carries.
Like, you just got 12
carries is the most he had since week 1 when Cam Akers didn't touch the field, and he had a rushing touchdown. So it's definitely Henderson. Yeah.
All right, so back to Brandin Cooks, and yes, I saw that terrible. Let Brandin cook. Brandin Cooks versus 2 rebounders. So I brought back Unbreak My Heart yesterday, Chris, which is we dropped somebody, and throughout waivers throughout the year, you've done enough to like, hey, we mend fences. We can get back together. We can, see how things were by the time apart. That one was Darnell Mooney. Mooney, 3 straight games with yards. He's in that 60, 70, 80 range. Justin Fields knows how to throw the ball a few times. Would you go Darnell Mooney or Brandin Cooks?
I need to be reminded on Mooney. Who's Mooney playing? New England? Ooh, yikes. I'd probably go Cooks. I think this could be. I would expect the Raiders to be able to score some points here against the Texans. I think it could be a. I don't want to go as far as saying a breakout game for Davis Mills. He throws 2 touchdowns. I suppose it would be a breakout game, but I would go with Brandin Cooks in this spot against the Raiders.
All right. So then Brandin Cooks versus. Got on his bicycle and was working for the first time this year. Juju Smith-Schuster tops 100 yards and a touchdown on top to boot. Would you go Juju Smith-Schuster or Brandin Cooks?
Good for Juju. I go Juju.
Really?
Link to that Chiefs offense. Yeah, score some points.
Against
it's really
the 49ers?
Close, yeah, I'd still do it.
I think the bigger thing for me is I'd be more hesitant on Juju. Can we get a word on do they have half their defense this week? The 49ers? Like that's
the 49ers? I know. Yeah. They do have a lot of injuries right now at the moment. And the Falcons
legitimately, I think like half their defense was missing last week.
Yeah, and it's obviously, I mean, it's not the same when there's no Bosa. I mean, I'm not breaking any news here. But
yeah, shock upon shocks. So let's talk about Detroit Lions passing game. So Amon-Ra St. Brown's back. Jared Goff is in a dome. Is inside. I tweeted out the splits yesterday between Jared Goff indoors and outdoors. And the interesting part about it,
crazy.
The yards per game, the yards weren't that different. It's the completion percentage and the touchdown rate is through the roof. Well, I guess. Yeah, through the roof because you can only have a roof. And so there you go. It's through the roof. It's terrible outside. It doesn't even get to the roof outside because there's no roof. Anyway, it's crazy because the yards are pretty much about the same. It's just he's so much better with his completion percentage and touchdowns inside. So that being said, this is indoors, but it's not a great matchup.
No.
So, Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think it's a must start now, but Josh Reynolds over DJ Chark with Chark coming back, or does Chark step back in front of Josh Reynolds, who 3 straight really good games for Josh Reynolds before they hit their bye?
Yeah, Goff's soul buddy, Josh Reynolds. I mean, I don't want to start either of those 2 guys, but I would probably start Reynolds. Like, just Chark hasn't played, right? He had one good game. That was week 1, I think. And then week 2 was a dead game from him, and he hasn't been playing. So if I had to choose between the two, I'd go Reynolds. But yeah, you start Amon-Ra, right? Tough matchup or not, I think you start Amon-Ra. I mean, he's shown us before that he could be amazing against really good defenses. Last week was just, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, was just Bill Belichick. Obviously out of a dome, but Bill Belichick in New England.
Outdoors.
Yeah, outdoors.
Couldn't go through the roof. It was gone. There was nothing to go through. All right. So let's talk about the Packers wide receivers. So Alan Lazard, having fun with that one. I told him, Alan Lazard was the answer the entire time. I mean, I got to make up for the Cam Akers wherever I can. So Alan Lazard, hella fun there. But Romeo Dobbs, 2 good games, and that's been it. Haven't been on the same page. He's had some miscommunication and some drops. Aaron Rodgers has had some miserrant throws. Maybe it's the finger, whatever it might be. There's something not right. And people are making the excuse it's all Aaron Rodgers. If it's all Aaron Rodgers, then why is Alan Lazard still doing things? It's both. Right. I do admit it's not all on Dobbs. But are we at the point now? Is Dobbs even startable? He's getting targets. Yeah. He's getting routes. It's just not working.
Yeah, I don't think he's startable. I don't think he's a must start.
Here's the comparison. Sorry, I had to cut you off.
No,
the comparison I'll give is the beginning of the year, and we just finally had one good week from this guy. How different is Dobbs from Allen Robinson at this point? All the routes, all the opportunities, getting targets, getting run. He's actually getting more targets than Allen Robinson for that argument. But really, what's the difference? It's just not working, even if it's out there.
Yeah, no, it's not working. And his 2 good games, he found the end zone. So it kind of feels like he's only going to be valuable to you if he does find the end zone. Yeah, the volume is there to your point in his targets. He's got 8+ targets in 3 of his last 4. He had 9 targets last week, but 21 yards, 29 yards, 27, 37. You know, it's not super appealing. It's not that exciting at all, really. So
would
no,
I don't. I would
Watson
drop or Amari Rodgers as a stash.
I think I would rather pick up Christian Watson. It's tough, man. That guy hasn't been able to stay healthy, unfortunately. We saw that big play in week 1 where he had that drop and he battled through injuries throughout camp. I still believe in him overall. I definitely, if between him and Dobbs overall, from a talent standpoint, from a dynasty standpoint, it's not even close. It's Christian Watson for me. It's just he just has not been able to stay healthy. So I think he is a good stash. I would hold on to Dobbs, but I don't think I'm touching them roster-wise. I'm looking at the schedule, Washington, Buffalo, Detroit. I still think this team will eventually just realize that it is Lazard and it's run the ball. That's your 3 guys. That's it.
I'm going to give you – you're ready to write down? I see you keep grabbing your pen there to do this. So I'm going to give you 4 number 2s. You ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Dobbs.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel.
Ooh.
Rondell Moore.
Mm-hmm.
And wait, who was the other one? There was another one. Oh, Jerry Jeudy. How would you rank those 4?
I still think I got to go Jeudy 1 here, just on the talent and the upside. My goodness, the Broncos really just make my blood boil. But that schedule that we talked about is good.
Well, I mean, it's just specifically for this week.
Oh, for this week.
Yeah.
I think Rondell, Dubs, Jeudy, Samuel. Maybe I'm a little hard on Samuel, but who knows now with Taylor Heineke? I don't know. Samuel had a dud game last week. He just had a couple good games to start the season.
I was coming to Washington and the fact that Heineke is not a downgrade from Carson Wentz because Carson Wentz is not an upgrade from Tyler Heineke.
Right.
Tyler Heineke also likes the slot receivers a little bit more. It's 4 percentage points, so 4 percentage points is a little bit more than just 4 points. For everybody, math. There you go. Math yourself out there. Yeah, so anyway, point being here, I'm not thinking this is going to be rebound city to Curtis Samuel back inside the top 15, but Tyler Heineke did a hell of a lot with only Terry McLaurin. Now, Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel. I was trying to say Samuel, but freaking Pat May with the Samuel just kind of.
I know the Samuel.
It's screwed me up. Just screwed up my own trying to pronunciation there. I'm going Samuel over Terry McLaurin because Jerry Alexander was shut down last week. He was a shutdown corner last week, and Terry McLaurin is going to get Alexander and the opportunity here. So you're with me on this?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. You play the matchups. It's not like Terry has done anything spectacular anyways. He's definitely been taken away from top corners this year, last year, a year before. Yeah, I can get behind it. I don't love the situation at all, but
all right. Well, then
you're right. It's not a downgrade.
what you might love is that, so let's take it here and say, the best possible number 2 in the history of forever. Obviously not, because T. Higgins is arguably the best number 2 in football right now. Or Chris Godwin, or Mike Evans, depending on which way you split that one. Or Devonta Smith. But you get my point, because this is going back to Monday. Alec Pierce is over all of them, right?
Oh, man, Alec Pierce season. It was really nice to see Pittman, though, bounce back. You know, I don't know if it was on this show. I watched you and Lauren, and maybe on that one, some comments, or maybe on mine, just like Michael Pittman. People like aggressively ranked him. He's not even a wide receiver 2. He just showed like he really is. And again, respect to Surtain. This guy's an elite corner in the league. Sauce Gardner. These are nice young corners in the league. They've already proven themselves on a very small sample size. So Pittman bounced back, but Alec Pierce, yeah, he stretches the field. He had the touchdown late. He continues to get red zone targets. Matt Ryan is I think he's number 2 in the league in passing yards. Is that correct? I think he is. He's chucking the ball a lot. I know there's no Taylor. That's part of it.
He's Amari Cooper, though. Great. It's like 300 this week, 10 the next.
Yeah. He Titans this week, good spot. I think he had over 300 yards against him a couple weeks ago. Yeah, Alec Pierce over all of these guys for sure. I like Alec Pierce's upside.
He is number 2. He's about 30 yards in front of Patrick Mahomes with less than half the touchdowns.
And he's going to pass what? Is Josh Allen 1?
Look, yeah, by a mile.
He's going to pass Allen.
But 350, 195, 220, 350, 250, 390.
Yeah, it's been a crazy season for Matt Ryan. Highs and lows. The first couple weeks looked awful. I was thinking, wow, Carson Wentz is better than this guy. What are you thinking, Frank Reich? And then it's like, a couple nice wins, right? It beats the Chiefs at home, and then a miraculous win last week coming back. It's been highs and lows. I think he's only chucking because Taylor is not not there. Personally, like if
Taylor's out there, he's not chucking.
Yeah, I guess Taylor's out there. He's not chucking 50 times. It's just be a big run game between both teams. But I still like Alec Pierce.
All right, so let's get out of here real quick on a tight end kind of question for you. Assuming Waller is back and assuming Pat Freiermuth are back, do we just put them both in our lineups because it's tight end, and what the do you want to do anyway? Oh, and Dalton Schultz with Dak Prescott explaining whatever that one was about. So Schultz, Freiermuth, and Waller all back with Dak for Schultz. Are all 3 of them just plug them back in, or is one of them just wait and see? Schultz seems to be the most curious case.
Yeah, I think I would wait and see with Schultz. Like, I definitely like him with Dak.
How about Taysom Hill versus all 3 of them? There you go. That's what we'll get out of here. Taysom Hill versus Waller, Taysom Hill versus Schultz, Taysom Hill versus Freiermuth.
I would go Taysom over Schultz, but I'm playing Freiermuth and Waller.
Does Freiermuth change if it's Trubisky and not Pickett?
No, I don't think so. So he definitely, I think off the top of my head, he was the go-to guy with Mitch Trubisky over the first few weeks of the season. Pat Freiermuth was getting targets.
Schultz, Freiermuth, Waller walk into a bar and nobody gets a reception. That's what the end of the joke is.
Neither does Taysom Hill. Taysom Hill doesn't get a reception either, but guess what? He runs 5 times.
Somebody asked me if they should flex Taysom Hill because they have Mark Andrews. Like, dude, like, sure, if you want to gamble the fact that he has one more 30-point week left in him, go right ahead. But, oh, my God. Tight end, he's fine. Tight end because he's in the same conversation with Hayden Hurst and Robert Tonyan and all the rest of them.
Flex. You can do better at flex.
All right. You know what you can't do better then? Following Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney and all his NHL picks to win some money and watch my wonderful Rangers. Come on, Igor, get it together. Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they're going to score 6 every night.
I know. I don't even know what that's like anymore. We'll be back on Monday. Tweet at Chris Meaney, code all in over at FTN, 20% off. The Athletic and Alex's trade charts out there. We'll be back Monday for a recap. Hopefully recapping wins and a much less frustrating Week 7 than it was Week 6.
Cheers.